telling me stuff about COVID. I bet everybody's
Yeah,
wanting to hear more about COVID.
exactly. You
I
can't hear enough about COVID. Well, my
know
wife
it.
has been exposed twice. Once through a coworker and once through a lady at church. And so Wednesday I went to my boss and I said, and I was wearing a mask and I said, my wife has been exposed to COVID. She is going to test tomorrow because it's the prescribed 3 days.
Hmm.
She's going to test tomorrow and and we'll go from there. I'll let you know what happens. And he says, are you set up to work remotely? And I said, well, no, they wiped my computer, so I haven't been set up. Me thinking, oh, good, I'll get 5 days off work if I'm exposed.
Yeah.
Nope. He's like, you need to set up remote. So then he called the IT people, and then about 8:30 that night, he texted me and he goes, "Did the IT people get you set up?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Check your work email and get back with me." So I loaded my work email onto my phone. They're both Gmail based. I mean, I have a it's our work email is Gmail based.
Uh huh.
It's not a Gmail address, but it's through it's Gmail. It's powered by Gmail.
Hmm.
And so I did, and he said get back. So I messed with it for about 20 minutes. I couldn't get to work, so I said, well, if she's positive tomorrow in the morning, I'll contact the IT people. Anyway, so now I'm getting work email on my phone, which I don't like because I'm not supposed to
Hmm.
be doing work. I'm hourly. I'm not supposed to be doing work. Yeah, and they don't want me to, but my boss wants me to check my email. Anyway, so I'm off. I took off work tomorrow just because I hadn't had a day off since before Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
and I wanted a day. I mean, it's a Friday. I literally, I probably, if I went to work and worked 40 hours this week, I'd probably work an hour or two, maybe at tops, because I get so many hours during the week, and
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. And you can't, and you're and you're not allowed to load it up because you automatically get overtime, right?
well, I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do, but I don't want to. I don't want to work more than four. That's the thing. I worked 42 hours last week, and I don't.
Hmm.
I've no desire to work a minute more than I have to.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't need the money, but I always on Fridays there's always stuff that happens. Anyway, so I so I took off. But I set up my out of office, and it sends it to, and I got to send an out of office thing to like, God, it's ridiculous, like 30 people. Like I have to put my, I had to share my calendar with like 30 people. My
Yeah.
employees, my supervisors, some fellow employees. Just a whole bunch of people. There's a bunch of people. And so they'll all email me back. What are you doing? What are you doing? So when I got home, I checked my email, and there was one from not my boss, but my boss's boss. It's like, hey, you haven't put your promotion on your email because they want you to put your title in the email sig.
Uh huh.
And I go, oh, I didn't, I wasn't told. I mean, I knew it was official because I accepted it, but they don't tell you like, okay, now you can do all this stuff.
Hmm.
So I just had anyway. So my
They haven't
my
flipped the switch yet, as far as you were
well,
concerned.
there's no
Yeah.
switch to yeah, and that's the thing I'm learning about this management stuff. It's like nobody flips the switch. That my company has a plant in Princeton, Illinois, and the girl that was basically my equivalent up there, she was over the artist up there, quit just kind of out of the blue. And I tried to call her like on her last day. She never called me back. I think she was mad about something, and
Hmm.
but I don't want to go into all that. But
Yeah.
anyway, I think she was mad about something. I think something happened that kind of pushed. She's a few years older than me, so she's a little bit closer to retiring than me. Her husband died a few years ago, so I don't know if she's got a little bit of money socked away. But I think something just pushed her, and she was just like, you know what? I'll retire early.
She said, "Life's too short." Yep.
Yep. Anyway, so anyway, so somebody up there called me today, and I go, who took her place? And she said, I don't know. Nobody, there's no plan for this person who's such a linchpin in their manufacturing. And so these three artists have no boss, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, first off, why is one of them not stepping up and going? I'll be. I mean, that's what I did when my boss quit.
Mhm.
It's like, screw you guys, I'm the new boss. You know?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how I am. I'm just like that. I mean, if you I'll do whatever I wanted to do until you tell me not to, and even then I may still do it. Um, and anyway, so but I was just shocked that it's like, how could there be no plan of succession on this thing? Anyway, so I've now I announced on social media that I got a promotion. So if my immediate boss did not want me to announce it, well, he's not on social media, so I'm good. But you know,
Yeah.
anyway, I took tomorrow off because I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm
I
gonna
mean,
do. I'm gonna get up late and drink coffee and draw. I don't know. I was debating it, but then like some stuff happened right before I left, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm taking off tomorrow.
well, I just hope Michelle doesn't have the COVID, and that that's pretty much all I think I'll say. I hope for is that
Yeah,
she is well, because even if it even is like I say it is, which is nothing, which is basically it's a cold. It's still a cold. Nobody
yeah.
wants to have a cold.
Well, I mean, people have died of COVID, so I
Yeah.
mean, it's not nothing. Now,
Hmm.
the latest strain seems to be not too bad, but people are still dying from it. But
It's a cold,
so,
and if you're sickly, you'll die. But
well, as I
that's
tell my
life.
employees frequently, we will all die one day, and
Hmm.
I told them I welcome the cold embrace of the grave.
Yeah, yeah,
And of course, they're all in their 20s. They're like, "Oh my God, how could you say that?" And I'm like, I mean, what do I have to complain about? I
yeah,
mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily want to die. When I say embrace it, I don't mean like, I welcome it necessarily, but it'll happen one day. I'm not
yeah.
gonna waste a second of time worrying about it because I know one day it'll happen, and I'm not worried about it. I think I got that covered. So why would I be afraid of it? Uh,
Say, at
but
least my grandpa didn't die screaming like the gypsy said. Not like his passengers.
yeah,
Something
exactly.
like I
I
forget the
wanted
joke. I mangled.
no,
I
you
mangled
butchered it.
what
You
is a
butchered
good
it.
joke.
You butchered it. When I die, I want to go in my sleep peacefully,
Yeah,
like
not
my
like
like my grandfather did. Not the passengers in his not
that's it.
screaming and yelling at the passengers in his
Like his
car.
passengers. Yeah,
It's a good joke.
yeah, yeah. You
Just
do it
just
right.
kind of just kind of butchered a little bit. No
Yep.
big deal. Anyway, so so the day that Michelle found out she had been exposed, they were kind of slow at work, so they sent her home, right?
Hmm.
And she said, "Well, I'll take a test tomorrow morning." Because we had one test. They sent her home with a test, so we still have a test downstairs. But hey, have you seen this picture?
Let's see it. Wow, cool. That's a great
That
shot.
is that is Michelle and I. I don't know if we were even married. That may have been right before. It was either right after we were married or right before. That's at my parents' house in their driveway.
Neat.
Uh, anyway, she went home from work the day that she discovered it. She went home and ran like 4 miles. So I mean, if she's got COVID, it's not really affecting her like it is some people. That's for sure. But
Well, yeah.
she took that test was negative. Today she took a PCR test, and she should get the result of that next 24 to
Hmm.
48 hours. Um, but
Where do you get those? Did you get your family doctor give you that, or somebody else?
no, you set up an appointment through a place. It's like online, Emmy.com or something,
Okay.
and she went there. Now, if she comes up positive tomorrow, that throws what I got going into a whole spin because I will have been exposed then, and I
Hmm.
have to take precautions, you
Yeah.
know. But we'll see. I mean, I don't. I'd be shocked if she came down with it. I mean, and she
Well,
said so. The first exposure, she went to lunch with a guy, or was it all? She had a work lunch, and she sat across from the guy,
hmm
and she didn't get it. And several people at her work did, but she didn't get it. And
does the
then this
guy
one,
have anything like comorbidities?
no,
Okay.
none of the people that, and I know quite a few people. 4 people at her work got it, and they just all got it recently, and they just all got over it, you know.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking a lot about what you told me about my art I think last week you told me this, and we talked about shading. I think is and
Well, no, it was
and
more about shapes. That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you shade, you create shapes, and your shapes just were a little random for me. I felt like you just needed to think more about that the sort of hatching you do sometimes,
So
which
I'm
is go
using
ahead.
I use a shape a lot that's like this.
It's yeah, you're just feathering the edge of
Yeah,
something.
and you maintained and you've really opened my eyes to this, by the way. And that's not this is a terrible example.
Well,
But
it's just
you
that the mind is going to translate it into something. And has your mind staying up with your potential audience on what that might be translating into? I mean,
I
because
th-
if it's nothing, it's like it's decorative. And if it's just decorative,
yes.
okay. But
It is. Yeah,
hey,
no, no, no.
it could be something other
No,
than
no, no.
decorative.
So I'm gonna tell you a crazy story,
Okay.
because I have many crazy stories. Um, I had a dream the other night, and in my
Oh,
dream, I was drawing.
okay.
you know, for
Yeah,
real. This is for real. This really
okay.
happened. And in my dream, I was drawing, and I saw in my dream, I thought about that what you told me,
Huh.
and I
Interesting.
did it differently. And so I've really and I thought about this before the dream. This dream wasn't the epiphany necessarily, but it was more like a confirmation of. In the dream, I drew this picture of, I don't know if you know the living laser is. He's oh, I got a picture of him right
Is he
here.
like the Korean guy that he can just
No, no,
draw off
no.
the
He's
top
like
of his
this. He's
head?
this. He's this guy.
Oh, okay. He's a superhero. Okay.
It's superhero. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. No, no, no. That's not the. No, no, no. Kim Jong Gi or Kim. Yeah, Kim Jong Gi is not the living laser.
Okay.
Anyway, I was drawing the living laser in my head in my dream, and
Hmm.
I saw exactly what you were talking about, and I realized, and not only did I see it the way that you suggested it, but but your advice worked I saw this drawing in a style that when I saw it, I was like, this is how I want to draw. And I and
Hmm.
I and I've been working on that. And it's not a I'm not at the point I can explain it. Okay,
Hmm.
so I'm not even going to attempt to. But it really was something where I was like, okay, this is going to change the way that I draw. And Mario White, right?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Him and I used to work together, and we would talk about this all. I mean, we'd talk about this all the time and he'd call me and he'd go, "Man, I changed my style. I did this drawing. I'll come over and show it to you at lunchtime." And he showed it to me. I go, "That looks like everything else you draw." Yeah,
Well,
so I
yeah,
realized
yeah. I
all
mean, the big body of what you do, it's always going to be you. That's
right.
always the frustrating part. It's like, I'm getting tired of looking like me. You know.
Yeah. Anyway, so I realized that me saying all this will probably not be anything that changes that you see, but this conversation this advice that you gave me made a big impression on me.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, obviously some of it comes through as like me being tactless. Because I
oh yeah,
realize
yeah,
every
yeah, yeah.
time I lay a criticism on somebody, it's like, Ellis, you
You
probably
jackass.
stood a 99% chance of just hurting somebody's feelings for no good
No,
reason.
no, 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 no. You could first off, I'm gonna tell you what I told one of my employees the other day. Said something about what'd they say? They said something. They didn't say they were gonna hurt my feelings. No, maybe they did say they were gonna
Okay,
hurt my
maybe they
feelings.
did say that.
I'm gonna say something that hurts your feelings. And I,
Yeah.
I told
Well,
him,
don't.
I said, you don't have the power to hurt my feelings.
Oh boy, that sounded like a challenge. Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't hurt my feelings. It was something like that. I'm gonna, but it's like something like that. You only have the power to hurt my feelings if I
Yeah,
take what you
yeah. If you,
say
oh yeah, yeah, you're
and
right about that. It's like, hey, who are you?
absolutely.
Who are you? You know, it's
You
like,
can't. You don't have the power to insult me because
yeah,
and I'm rubber, you're glue. You
right.
know.
No,
No,
though
but
that sort of person's attitude, you can always tell. Now, of course, some of it is kind of almost like, wow, that guy's a psycho. You can't get under his
yeah, well,
skin.
yeah.
But that's
There's
a good way
that.
to be. And of course, that is what you would find with a psycho. They would be like, this thing that means nothing to me is making noises. Like, yeah, I should care about it. It's
Well,
like,
yeah, there is that kind of a complete disregard of other people's
yeah,
opinions or feelings.
yeah, yeah.
No, no, no. I'm not saying that because I do value your opinion.
Hmm.
No, but what I would say in this case is you can't hurt my feelings because I look for criticism to get better. So I
Hmm.
don't. And even if
Yeah.
I disagree with it, it's still fine.
Hmm.
And and it's different because I do respect your opinion.
Yeah, and it's like I said, every time I start to criticize you on something, I'll get it all worded up, and and I'll think to myself, John Byrne wouldn't do this. And then I'll look up an example. It'll be like,
And
well,
he
I
does.
I guess John Byrne does do that, and I was just sure he would never
Do like I
shade
did.
with that sort of feathering. Then I looked it up and I found one right away.
But I think he does it more as a shading, as a coloration shading. For example, like a texture
Uh huh.
than a form, and that's what it's
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
Okay, and whether he
Texture is a thing that is just fill. You could think of it as just like if that's your
zip it up.
zip the tone exactly. If that's your zip, then I got all
Well,
four of these babies in the mail. You talk about styles that mean something to a guy. To me, the
oh,
stylistic stuff of Magnola being inked by let's see, Chaikin wrote this and Williamson inked it. Yeah,
Al Williamson inked it. Oh my
Al
gosh.
Williamson inked it, and that makes for like this powerhouse kind of thing of like that Magnola would not art direct something
Yeah.
as major as an Al Williamson, and it would just be a mutual respect society going on. I got to check this. Walt Williamson wouldn't be the writer. Chaikin was obviously the writer. Uh, but
I believe
yeah,
Fritz
and
Lieber
besides,
was
I
the
knew that in the
writer.
back. Besides that, yeah, yeah, and it's a great adaptation.
Oh God, I read
I
those
was
books
just
when I was a
looking at
kid.
this. Yeah,
But I was
but
into. Were you into fantasy when you were a kid?
oh, Sword and Sorcery. I got the very first issue, which I guess is worth something now of Swords into the Mist or Swords in the Mist. So
Oh,
yeah,
really? The first edition?
yeah,
Huh?
with that
I
Jeff
have the.
Jones cover on it. Yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
oh
It's a paperback, right? It's the
yeah.
gray paperback.
And for some reason, they always when they republished them, they always put a border around that great art.
Oh,
And
mine has the border. I got a
yeah, and
reprint.
it's like but the first edition is just like it's just all Jeff Jones, the only way you would want it.
Yeah, but anyway, you're a lot of the stuff you tell me, it takes me a while to absorb it. I'll be honest
Well,
with you.
uh, stuff, some people, when I was taking oil painting classes, you'd have guys walk up, and if they were allegedly in position to be giving you the input, you were taking the course, they just start painting on your painting and say, let me do something here. And it's like, but at the same time, that is the most direct way for them to get out of their head what they've got in mind for your art in terms of like the direction you're going. Wim says
my employees.
Here's your heads up. Wim says my test took 3 days to come back negative.
Oh yeah, Michelle's. I don't know when. I've gone through this entire thing and not taken a test so far.
Well, yeah, and if you want to spare yourself, I guess, that indignity of the old Q-tip up the nose as long as possible.
Oh, I don't care about that. Here's the thing. I'm not going to take a test until I think I might have it, and I've never been exposed to it. There has been never an occasion where I'm like, oh crap, this person I was around has COVID.
Yeah.
Because I've had it drilled into my head, partially by my work. You don't stand within 6 feet of people for 15 minutes. You can stand close to them for a little while, but you stand your distance from people. And it's just a habit I've gotten into, and I've embraced it.
Well, that's
for better or worse.
We've all gotten into habits that I wish would just go away.
I'm good with 6 feet though, dude.
Yeah.
I don't need people in my grill all the time.
Well, no, I'm a big one for my space too. I'm not wanting to run up and hug people ever, so it's no biggie. But you just know that has damaged us all for. I say, from my viewpoint, for no particular good reason. You got a 99% survival rate. And yeah, there would have been a lot of miserable colds, maybe went around with a little more frequency, but not much,
Well,
Not for all the social cost, not for all the division manipulated and used by the people that the last people on earth you want to give the power to, having the power. And it's like, jeez. It's like rewrite this last 2 years and everybody have just a little more sense about it.
Oh, I'm glad I don't have kids right now. I think kids are going to reap the. Between
very awful
missing. I mean, think about. I don't know what your school experiences was like, but think about like missing out on all. I wasn't particularly the best student in the world or whatever, but I, would have, had I not, think about it. If you were a junior last year, you may have, or in 2020, you may have not been in school, for all of your junior and senior year.
Yep.
That would be horrible.
And then the teachers union, for whatever additional perverted reason, just wants to keep it going. And of course, that's they're absolutely right. The petri dish and the hotbed of disease is with the kids. Yeah, sure. Yep. That's what you signed up for. That's what your pension is going to be all about if you ever get one. And
teachers probably get sick more than regular people.
Yeah.
Or people that non-teacher jobs. Let me put it that way.
Right. Around kids, but at the same time, they're also standing off from kids. They, unless you're a grade school teacher, you're probably not grabbing your kids that often and getting in real close to them.
Now.
Yeah, exactly. You're standing off from them. Wear your mask if that makes you feel better, and obviously it does some good, cutting down on sputum, and obviously if you've got somebody, just obviously sick, it's like, what are you doing here? Go home.
Yeah. I asked our safety department early on this, because I had to get my temperature taken every day before I go to work. And I said, how long are we going to do this? And they said, no matter how long the pandemic goes, this is a good idea. We'll probably do this forever. Now that we have the equipment to do it automatically, this will be a forever thing.
Well, that's
You know.
probably not a bad idea. I always resented
Yeah.
working around people that were sick. It's like,
Oh,
ick.
I had an employee one time come in and he came up to my desk, right by my desk, and he said, I don't feel good. My stomach's really upset. I think I'm on leave. And I go, why did you even come into work?
Why did you
And
come over here to tell me?
why did you,
Why are you
I
trying to
said,
get me
why did you,
sick?
and he literally ran out of the room and I did not see him again. He called me, he texted me later and said, I went to the bathroom and threw up and went home. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're lucky you didn't get a bad flu that day, yeah, or
well,
whatever he had.
I get a flu shot. So,
Hmm.
but there was a flu going around, and that's what he had was some. He was out for 3 or 4 days after that.
Hmm.
That's why I've been wearing a mask at work all week. And so when Michelle came up that she had been exposed, she said, "You need to put a mask on." And I said, "I've been wearing a mask all day, and I hate wearing them, but I'm like, I don't want to get because there's a stomach bug going around."
Hmm.
you know. And if I go out, I'm off work tomorrow. If I go to the mall or wherever I go, I'm gonna wear a mask. It's not necessarily because I worry about COVID. I don't want the flu.
Interesting. Wim has got long haul COVID, I guess. Says he still has the same symptoms as when I did have it. Now, that's interesting.
Oh gosh.
That's also worrisome, I guess, for anybody that's paranoid about it. But it that is also out there. There are
One
certain
of my
colds that you say to yourself, "This is never going away," and it's like, well, that does happen.
one of my employees' dad got Christmas Eve 2020 got taken in an ambulance to a hospital, and he has been on oxygen. Now he's been on oxygen ever since. Now it's just when he sleeps, but he's been on oxygen ever since. You know.
Hmm.
So I mean, but he had the original. See, it seems to be getting less virulent or whatever the word is.
Yeah, it's knocking them down a little less. I mean, most people do not. The people that get it don't automatically go to the hospital for one thing.
No, 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 not at
It's a
all.
cold,
Even
it's a
during,
cold, and you should
but
stay
it can
home with a
have long
cold.
term effects. But
Yeah.
it can have long term effects.
Hmm.
I mean,
Is that what you're saying, Wim? That you had COVID, but it took him that long to since the last thing you said was something about negative tests. I was kind of confused there about his
oh, because it
still
said it took him
feeling the
3 days.
effects. Yeah.
Well, that's you'll test positive, and then there's a formula for how long. I think like 14 days after that you're considered not contagious, and
Uh-huh.
I think at that point you will test negative, but you could still have the effects. Oh, one of my employees got it same time her dad, the girl whose dad is on oxygen. She said she does not feel like she's fully recovered still, and that she can tell like, and I can see it because we walk at break time. I don't walk with her, but she walks by herself at break time, and she walks slower than she did before she got COVID.
Just took some of her oomph out. Wim says
Yep.
mostly cough and runny nose, sometimes a fever. Oxygen levels were always fine. He got it in September, so that's a while. But that's a while ago.
That's a while
That,
back, man.
that's a while that a cold can last.
That's a long cold. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's a very long cold. That's too long.
that's not a cold. I mean, that's not a regular cold,
Mm-mm.
you know. But
No.
anyway, so going back to John Byrne and Drawn, and so oh, hang on. Here's what I need. This will illustrate.
Wife
So
was
this is
asymptomatic when she got it.
oh yeah.
I'd have to look up that word. That means you
Ace, you don't have
you aren't
symptoms.
Yeah, you don't have symptoms.
You're not sick. You don't
Yeah.
know. You don't know that you have it. I kind of
Right.
wonder if I've had it because I've had a couple colds, but
Well, that's the deal. They've been waffling around saying, you know, anybody that's had a cold has something like what we're calling preparation and maybe not immunity, but you've had something like what you need as far as your natural immunity if you've ever had a coronavirus, which
yeah, which they've had for a while.
yeah, oh yeah,
That's
it's
how they got the. So my friend that's a doctor was telling me about it, and he said they've been working on a vaccine for this for a while. That's how they got it so quick.
mhm,
Okay, so here's what we're gonna. Here's what. Here's the, so this is X-Men Essential #2, which is mostly John Byrne art. So the effect. I don't know if you can see that right there. It's not very
right.
good. That's kind of the effect like I do that you're
But
talking
he's
about.
describing a form. The form I would object to he's created is across the way on
That
the no, the one that's created the little lump on his not deltoid, his scapula, whatever. Not
that right there.
the one across the way, across the middle of him. No, 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 no.
Oh, that.
On his back, it's almost like a bubble on the back of Nightcrawler's back. It's like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
you've just he has described a form there. He's shaded underneath something that now describes a bubbly form. But he
Yeah.
and the spine, the ridge of the I guess it's this. I can't think of the word now, but that spine on his back there, and it probably is scapula. And now I
Let me
just
see this.
refuse to use the word right. Uh, but anyway, yeah, and so yeah, he feathers a lot of shapes, and of course, you know, telling the guy like Byrne, you know, hey, work on your shapes is kind of stupid because
Well,
he was
so
just chunking
oh,
that stuff out.
here's a
But did
here's a
anybody ever ink him but himself?
yeah. This is Terry Austin.
Okay, okay,
So right here, this is like what I do that I think you're
uh huh,
that
yeah,
were or like there. And see, this figure is wearing a dark costume, so I think that's more like a shiny
mm-hmm,
effect, maybe. But a lot of these characters are wearing oh, here's Cyclops here, right there.
right.
That's or here. That's
Yeah,
even
yeah. He is
that's
describing a feathering of an edge.
okay.
It's an edge turning a corner
So this
on his
is
tricep.
80s, early 80s. So then I have this,
But
which is
you typically are using it on like flat planes as kind of like a filler, and they create this disruption. It's like that shouldn't have maybe been what you chose for a flat plane, you know?
well, and what I've noticed is he doesn't use it as much. I think a lot of that came from Terry Austin
Uh huh.
because I've noticed on some of his other stuff he doesn't use it that much.
Uh huh.
And so,
So now
but I
his new pencil a day stuff. Does it seem like it's evident in that?
okay. So here's printouts that I have. This
Okay.
is a this isn't a full page. I printed this out at 100% so that I could see his line work
Sure. Yeah, it's a good idea.
and see. You can see here he does not. He does. So right here he does on Xavier's collar,
Hmm.
and here he kind
But
of
at the
does, but
same
it's like
time, he's describing a fold
right,
on that collar. Yeah.
right. But he doesn't. What I've noticed, it's okay. Like here he does it, and
Hmm.
again that's a fold,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
he doesn't use it that much. Not like he did. Not like it was in the X-Men stuff back in the
Right.
day, the old X-Men stuff. So like there's little on this page, and I've noticed that most of it is stuff like this. I mean, there's not a lot of, and it's more the shading is more just solid form.
Right.
There
It's
now
a
there's one right here where it kind of fades out, but for the most part, so I think I'm overusing it. Is what I'm saying. I think I need.
Yeah,
I think it's and so you pointing that. Not that I'm gonna stop doing it because you
yeah.
know,
It's like I say,
but
you can't just quit being you in terms of like
right. But
criticism. I'll drop
but
that now.
but since you brought it to my attention,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like okay, maybe I'm overusing it. I need to kind of look more, rely more, because what I don't use that I should use. Yeah, let me see if I can find. Let me draw it.
The thing that this most, like I say,
Is
most references is that the Riley method that you everybody should have in their experience as something they at least like brushed up against and did a little bit of the discipline of that sort of charcoal drawing. In my opinion, I mean, it just helps so much to paint with a pencil a little more. Oops, boy, this looks bad. I'll see how much of this I can undo.
yeah, no one's taking your
I guess,
advice now.
yeah, I guess I was a little too wrapped up in my verbiage there. Um, oh, anyway. Oh, let's see what I've got listed. Oh, that Biomega. You said you've been exposed to Biomega. Now that guy, you talk
Yeah, I
about.
had the first issue downstairs, or the first paperback.
Well, that's what I read. So, you know what struck me about that? That was a
What?
guy that didn't care anything about how much something that is graphic novel length ought to be graphic novel like in terms of story volume.
Oh yeah.
That thing fairly often, and this was almost like wow, a light bulb going on in my own mind because he fairly often will take 6 pages to do the most important thing that comic books can do, that film is kind of can do, but not quite. And that is to just break things down into microseconds.
Oh yeah.
He might have an
That's a
exciting
lot
thing
of manga
he
though.
wants, huh? That is a lot of
That's
manga.
a lot of manga does that.
Yeah. Well,
That's a kind of a
it was
characteristic of
eye opening
manga.
to me to see how well he did it because it was like, wow, that's cool. Because that's he's going from millisecond to millisecond, and it's like I got really wrapped up into how he was handling that.
That's funny because I've heard people that are fans of manga say that's one of the things they like about manga. How
Even though they're being shorted to the extent like, oh, I learned just
well, but
practically nothing, but I did get into this big cinematic moment. That's
yeah, no. They like this. They like that because it's not like American comics. It's a different
mm-hmm.
way of telling a story. Have you read Understanding Comics?
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. That it makes my mind think of that. What's his name's point
Uh,
about time in comics?
Scott McCloud, Scott McCloud. Is that it? Anyway,
McLeod. Yeah.
McCloud. Okay.
But
He
and what
taught.
he's saying is, of course, the what happens is happening between panels is just as important, you know.
Yes.
And that is the what is happening for me that is so exciting there is actually happening between the panels. Yeah. It's like how much
Yeah.
occurred before he drew the next one, is what you're reacting to. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, nothing occurred other than just a bare tick of time. Cool. But
Yeah.
he's picked another angle to show me, and nice.
Yeah. That's well. That's yeah. That's the
And of course,
one
that
of the
guy,
manga things.
I guess it's on Netflix, I think. I don't think it's on Prime. It's called Blame, but it's pronounced Blam. And in the manga world, and it's pretty groovy in terms of like animation and stuff because it picks and chews and stays with this limited monochrome palette, and it's pretty good, pretty styling. Except it goes really red when there's somebody using their lasers and stuff, which is cool
Oh yeah.
because nothing pops red and things burning up and going into lava than gray against bright red and yellow.
Yes.
What else? Oh yeah, Biomega, Blame. Oh, I'm a big fan of people that do a whole lot with very little in film.
Yeah.
And I watched my bad copy. I've got a real bad copy. It's probably sub 640 by 480. I think it's smaller than that. But I watched it on my big screen, and it was Zardoz with Sean Connery.
Oh no.
Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man.
Had we continued classic cinema, that would have been a movie we ran across. I guarantee you.
Oh, that would have been a perfect pick because that has got so much going on that is brilliant.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like brilliant only if you are just really into kind of a minimalist thing,
Yeah.
It's even sub Doctor Who in terms of like its effects budget or anything, It's
the funny thing about Zardoz and movies of its ilk or its time period, let me put it that way, is I often wonder when you look at, I don't know what year that came out. It was the 70s, 60s, late 60s.
Yeah, I think it was probably 72, 6, something like that. I'll look it up right now.
I often wonder because you look at movies like that and like Logan's Run and not Blade Runner, oh God, Rollerball.
Yeah.
And I wonder what would science fiction movies have been like had Star Wars not come out? Because Star Wars changed everything.
Yeah.
And everything became like an adventure movie.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, science fiction wasn't really Logan's Run's an adventure movie, but
right.
It has all these have an element of adventure to them, but it's so different from Star Wars.
Yeah, they fairly often try to be, like you say, a more than adventure. They try to be, mental. They try to be take you someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Star Wars, let's face it, it's not really, it's science fiction, but it's not really. It's more like it could be like a samurai movie for that matter.
Of course.
Or
with its origins that he acknowledges that it is about the hidden fortress and all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, so I always wonder what would happen. What would science fiction have ended up like if Star Wars hadn't come out?
It's like I never will.
Maybe like westerns and Dead. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's Star Trek, of course. So Harlan Ellison really enjoyed the discomfort Tom Snyder had wrangled putting Ellison and Doohan on the same show.
Oh my gosh.
And Ellison was just doing all kinds of, just a little bit of crap and laughing at him, basically saying it's just a cowboy cop show. He's just denigrating it. And Doohan didn't want to hear it because he's all about the cultural good it's doing and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Complete BS.
Yeah.
Come on. What did,
Well, yeah, and of course, Ellison's just being Ellison. He's always picking his fights. He never usually punching down.
No. He wasn't. I think he punched up as much as he could.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't afraid of a fight.
Mm-mm.
I love Harlan Ellison. I love the personality almost more than I liked his
Oh yeah,
stories.
that's why I think I love Harlan Ellison is all the introductions to Dangerous Visions, where
Yep.
he typically works in quite a bit of story about himself before he tells you how it came to be that I knew this guy you're about to hear this story from.
When I was a kid, the library, I grew up in Yukon, and the library didn't have a lot of science fiction stuff, but they had a lot of short story collections and they had a couple of Ellisons, they had a couple of Isaac Asimovs. Here's one of my copies of Dangerous Visions. I love
Oh,
Dangerous Visions.
oh, you do have a copy of Dangerous Visions.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. In fact, I probably got a couple. If you want to read one, let me
If
know.
I ever want to go back and revisit, yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they're all guys knocking themselves out because
Oh
Ellison is
yeah.
saying you want to be in my high profile anthology because he's already pitched it as like, well, this is the only thing that anybody that is anybody will be wanting
Oh
to be
yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and
You
yeah, everybody did their best, saying
you
yeah,
love that
everybody's going to be
fresh
reading
new
this
wave
one.
cinema.
Yeah,
You wanna make a splash.
yeah,
This is
this is your
anyway.
chance,
But
maybe
I
your only
love
chance. I don't know. I
when
don't.
I was a kid. I mean, it is so bizarre. I mean, Isaac Asimov just seemed like the ultimate human being, you know.
Yeah, well, he's got the
And the only thing
IQ to be called that. Yeah.
yeah, and he lived in New York, which when I was a kid seemed like Mars to me,
Yeah.
and just and uh, the and I read. Oh, I forget. I mean, I read a bunch of his books. It was all short story collections for the most part, because I think well, he wrote all kinds of stuff, but they all had introductions, and then through that, I ran up against Harlan Ellison because they were like rivals or whatever, friendly
Well,
rivals, I guess.
friendly rivals. They liked each other.
Yeah, but yeah, those two, for whatever reason, when I was a kid, I just, and I thought, and then somewhere along the way, I read Harlan Ellison wrote a book, or I think for some LA paper, he wrote a series of columns that was a
The
television
the
review.
Glass Teat. I had
I was going to say it may have been called The Glass Teat.
the paperback of it. Yeah, sure. No,
The
and they
library.
were great literary criticisms of what was going on and why. And of course, it was like his way to express how many idiotic things he's ever had to deal with and all that,
Yeah,
in that industry.
which apparently there's quite a few.
Yeah, he apparently had a
But
lot of things he.
yeah,
It's
I really liked Harlan Ellison and
uh,
Isaac Asimov, and out of that sprang a book that I found. I had it. I didn't know where it was, and
knew
I
you had
found it during the pandemic because my bookshelf collapsed, and I had to
it.
pull all the books off of it, and I
Well,
found a
that's
book called.
interesting. Yeah, go ahead. And so
I found a.
so it fell out, huh?
Well, it was. I have. Yeah, basically, it was exposed to the light, and it's called a book called Murder at the ABA,
Uh
which
huh.
was written by Isaac Asimov about it was written, which the ABA is the American Booksellers Convention, and basically during the pandemic, all these comic conventions were canceled, and I wanted to go to a comic convention so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe not a big one, even like a small one, like a SoonerCon or something would have been great. But I remembered that book, and I was like, I've got that book somewhere. And then when the shelf collapsed, I found it, and it's written by Isaac Asimov, it's commissioned by the American Booksellers Association, and they wanted to write a mystery, and so he wrote a mystery about a murder that takes place at the American Booksellers Convention.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a character like Isaac Asimov in there, and there's a character like Harlan Ellison in there, you know,
mm-hmm.
Anyway, and I think I had the audiobook, and I think you helped me copy it off of YouTube. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
because it was 8 hours, and my PC wouldn't do it, but your Mac would do it.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay, cool.
anyway, I
Yeah,
don't know where
I'm,
we're
I'm watching.
going with all that, but
Our love of these
science
our
fiction
storytellers, basically.
classic. I love classic science fiction. I love classic anything. Any entertainment that's classic that I like is probably old. You know.
Yeah. Well, they fairly often can take their time in ways that other places aren't. I saw something the other day that I thought, man, can you imagine having the patience to for the build up that I was seeing there and just loving every second of it? And I can't remember now what it was that was blowing me away. But of course, it was an old movie. Oh,
Oh yeah.
I got into some lesser known noir a few weeks back. I'm watching right now Justified that I got from the library, season one. And I
Oh
thought,
yeah.
yeah, there's a good chance that this is going to seem real recent. I've probably seen this. I started watching it, and I realized, hey, man, you haven't seen any of this. And it was like, it was different than the season one, what it eventually came, which very got concerned with your standard kind of like character arcs. It was more
Oh yeah.
like it was more like giving you Elmore Leonard short stories, and so there'd be one-offs, which was really cool while you're getting to know all these characters. And I thought, wow, cool. This is something I didn't know I'd be getting. So
So
that's season one, but I've also got season four on tap, and it may be the one that disappoints me by being, you've already seen this.
oh yeah. So I came across this in my library the other day. I think I bought this I think I bought it at New World Con actually,
Uh
and
huh.
I don't know. Supposedly this is like a classic book on film noir. I was reading
Dark
about it, and I was
City.
like, I think I've got that. But
Cool.
anyway, this
Is
is
it
in my.
pretty well done? Is it pretty good clay coat
Well, I haven't
paper?
read it yet. I haven't read it yet, but
It's
it's
not like
well
it's
illustrated.
not like a pulpy uh, paper, is it? It's nice clay coat on the inside.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I mean, this is a rough copy. I paid like $1 for it at a comic
Oh wow!
convention,
Look at that thing.
but it's a book about. Oh, it's got a couple color pages.
Ooh, neat.
Anyway, this is
Yeah,
on my
yeah. When
stack.
a guy goes searching on Amazon Prime, sometimes it doesn't show up immediately. But if you like this movie, you might like this one, kind of thing. If you keep deep diving, you might run across something you really like.
Yeah.
Or just
I,
you read about something and then you do a search for it. It's like, hey, look, you guys hiding this from me? I want to
yeah.
watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where's this been all my life? You
yeah.
know.
What else is on my list? Oh, I wanted to mention that I finished The Gun Seller by Hugh Laurie. And if you actually, I think you said you were going to expose yourself to it at some point. It's very similar to The Night Manager.
Oh,
Only it's
really?
yeah, the gun seller, the bad guy that's only in it for like 5% of the thing. He would be most like the Hugh Laurie character in
Oh,
the Night
yeah.
Manager. He's the bad guy. So
Gotcha.
it's interesting that we're following around a guy that is basically Night Manager esque. Uh, the other character, the Loki guy.
Yeah.
So that
Hugh Hiddleston, Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston, yeah, he's good. I really enjoyed that Night Manager. It was.
Yeah, I did too.
I wonder if on a dime, Hugh Laurie could give you Jeeves or Wooster's voice
Yeah.
if you asked him,
Yeah.
because his voice in the Night Manager. I just heard this word just a few hours ago, mellifluous. Now I can't say it. Or maybe I never have been able to say it. Mellifluous. I can't say it. It's just too mellifluous for me. Oh, damn.
I am not going to criticize you. I butcher words all the time, dude.
Yeah, but a guy ought to be able to say a word.
No.
If he works on it long enough. Mellifluous. Mellifluous. Oh,
Mellifluous.
Yeah, there we go. That's better.
Anyway.
Oh, I know who said it too. Richard Burton. And of course, anytime he's not going to stop and stammer and work on a word. He's going to have it.
Nope. Yeah. He's going to have it nailed, and he's going to, and what he says, whether right or wrong, is going to be how it's going to be said.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been saying it wrong. I'm saying it right.
I saw him on a Cabot interview. That's why I was exposed to Burton. And he makes a point that, Burton, in terms of like having no money or anything, the guy was taking a wheelbarrow out and gathering dung from animals. And that's what he was selling in terms of like putting food on the table. So the guy was lower class, but he talked about his father was a miner. And he talked about how, as far as people with self-respect, why he seems like to us that he probably was upper crust is, oh, my battery's low. That's all right. Is because the miners had such a high opinion of themselves. They considered themselves the aristocrats of the hard-working working man. Yeah.
Oh,
so
really?
You could see it in their walk. They were just like these cocksure guys that said, hey, I want to be that guy. Go down the mines. Those are the guys that know what's what.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it ought to be, but he says that's the way what formed the Welshmen, back in the day. Yeah.
That's funny.
And one of the things I've got on tap to do that I realized I haven't done is I need to read No Country for Old Men. I want to see how that reads.
Oh, I've read that. I read that. I like it.
Well, Cormac McCarthy. I've read that, but I haven't read the script. I want to read the script and see what they did. That if it seems like it's all on the page or not. And I'm assuming it being the Coen brothers, it's all going to be on the page.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Oh, and the other manga-esque thing I'm indulging in is a show that's on Netflix. It's called Arcane, which I saw it got some good reviews, and I looked at it and it's like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. And what's cool about it, style-wise, is it's got a lot of shadows baked into it, which you only ever usually see in a video game, where they bake in highlights and shadows and they stay on the 3D form. Now, of course, you just have textures and you'd have their main color, but you wouldn't bake in a highlight, because as you move in the light,
as you move, it'll change.
It should change. But they don't do that, and so that you're always looking at something that's kind of semi-formed, but they just don't get carried away with it. And
really?
So it doesn't jar you, and it looks kind of cool. And I know there's video games, and I worked on them where you bake it in. You go ahead and say, well, it just really helps a lot to read this if he's always got this shadow on the bottom of a tunic that describes his tunic having a wrinkle in it. And they do that throughout this Arcane on everything, backgrounds, people. And it's kind of a cool decision to have made since it is based on a video game.
That's interesting.
And a pretty cool story. I'm into it.
Gotcha. I've been watching on HBO. I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have you ever seen
Oh
that with
man,
Larry
oh
David?
yeah, I've seen a few of those.
Oh,
They've
you know,
made me mad a couple of times, but other than that, yeah, they're fun. They're fun shows. They're
well,
smart. They're very smart.
I was pointed to it by our friend Dave, right?
Uh-huh.
He was like, "Oh, he told me it's better than Seinfeld," which I didn't. I was never that crazy about Seinfeld. I mean, it's okay, but I wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't really watch Seinfeld. My brother
yeah.
loves Seinfeld.
I mainly
Anyway,
like their bloopers. Yeah, go ahead.
so our friend Dave told me you got to watch this Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I've been watching it, and the main character reminds me of Dave. just,
Larry
just a
David,
guy,
yeah. It
just a
just sounds like
guy
I'm
that
surrounded by idiots. What is this? What?
just a guy that goes through and says whatever strikes him with no thought about, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. He's always baffled, and then he mentions it. Why are you doing that? Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that is exactly like Dave. Cracks me up. You know.
Did you see that documentary about the crime they helped get a guy off by the fact that he went to a baseball game that they were filming at?
No.
It was interesting. The guy was going down.
Was it Larry David? I mean, was it
Yeah. It
Curb Your
was
Enthusiasm?
Curb Your Enthusiasm. They went to a baseball game,
Yeah, I
and
watched
it
one the other
turned
night.
out
They
to
went
be
to a baseball game.
well. That may be it. They you may have watched the one. They had a guy in the background that, by virtue of being in the background, gave him the perfect alibi for his
Oh
time and
my
place.
gosh,
And
that's
so it's
funny.
like, they were all pretty enthused about, being so important to a guy that was under duress, getting clear on something like that.
Going down a river for a long time
That's right.
until they cleared him.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
I
pretty
forget what the
crazy.
name of the documentary is, but it was a good watch.
That's funny. Well, dude, it is 8 o'clock. I am
Wow,
out of
it's
coffee.
yeah. I'm out of coffee too, but I don't get any more.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy some of that Pete, but I don't drink. I drink chicory coffee.
Yeah, I saw that. I realized I sent a note out to two people who've got no use for my coffee information. You
No.
and Barry too. He
Barry.
says I don't drink warm drinks. Okay,
That's funny. I can't believe he doesn't drink warm drinks, but
that's what he
that
said.
doesn't
Mostly.
surprise me. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy. We shop at Crest. I'll buy some of that pizza this weekend. But my thing about chicory coffee is because so when I drank regular coffee, because like I'll go get me another cup. So I drink it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is when it's regular coffee, I'd lay in bed and I'd be jittery.
Yeah, I'm
And
I'm
so
kind of jittered right now. I like overdoing it. I really I've added an extra scoop, and
well, that's why
it
I
hits
want
me.
some.
Yeah.
I want some because once in a while you want to be like you want that buzz.
Uh-huh.
And chicory coffee has no caffeine in it. It's strong.
Oh yeah.
Well, mine's a mix. It's half and half, so it does have some caffeine in it. But yeah. So anyway, we shop at Crest. I'm gonna buy me some of that this weekend,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
just to
Yeah,
keep on hand.
for emergencies. For
Yeah, you never can tell. Sometimes
okay.
you want to get buzzed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a cheap high. Okay,
Exactly.
well, thanks, Wim, for dropping in and giving us all that info, especially the
Yeah.
scary info about your long
God. Yeah.
haul symptoms. I hope you get
Yeah. I
over
hope you
that.
get over them. No
Yeah.
doubt, man. No doubt.
Okay, I'm ending broadcast now. Say bye-bye.
See you guys. Thanks for joining.